Let's play Jiu-Jitsu. We love to practice the sport, but when we go around telling outsiders we're practitioners, it makes Jiu-Jitsu sound like some sort of quackery or alternative medicine. And saying we train Jiu-Jitsu sounds like we're begging to be asked what for. And we have to stop telling people we do Jiu-Jitsu. It's not code word for a hard drug. So I was a doer back in the early 2000s when someone asked about my weekend and I mentioned jujitsu, I get blank stares. This was before MMA went mainstream. Outsiders who knew anything about it called it ultimate fighting at the time. And then I'd explain poorly that jiu-jitsu is like wrestling, except for you could attack necks and joints to make the opponents give up. It didn't help. I'm a salesperson. I started treating this like a marketing problem, watching how other people who had been around longer than I have talked about the sport. Glazed eyes, polite but curt nods, eye rolls, and snickering once people walked away, all symptoms of confusion, boredom, and contempt. We were really getting this wrong. Even after The Ultimate Fighter launched in 2005 and MMA went mainstream, we were still confusing people with our phrasing. Even worse, we'd come across as cheesy and like trying too hard to sound legitimate. I couldn't let it go. Most of us are hobbyists who just want to share something we love without sounding like we're training for an MMA fight. The words we use shape how we think. Without language fundamentals, guard, passing, sweeps, submissions, we couldn't even practice the sport. Someone had to name those things first. But we were still stuck stepping onto a linguistic obstacle course just trying to share our enthusiasm. Or at least I was. The problem is that jujitsu is a noun. Sports that are verbs become agent nouns in English with the ER suffix. A wrestler, racer, runner, a swimmer. There's a few nouns that do this too, like cricketer and footballer, but no one goes around calling themselves a jujitsuer. It's a romanized loanword from Japanese, and they actually have their own version of the same problem. Casual conversation gets this, which means trainee, or this, which literally means BJJ person. Now, maybe you're like me and you watch some Olympic judo and the IJF highlights when they pop up on your feed, and you think you know the solution. The ka suffix, which is literally person of. And Neil Adams, the voice of judo, describes athletes and competitors as judoka all the time. But English speakers took that phrase without asking, and we didn't bother with the notes. Its usage in Japanese is quite nuanced. Expertise, a life built around an art, a career professional, not a hobbyist. Japanese MMA promotions started using it occasionally when describing skill sets, but most of the time it's reserved for headlines and documentation more than speech. But we don't want to be this anyways. Trust me, it'll get romanized and mispronounced, especially that third syllable, and the English speaking world will become the laughing stock of the jiu-jitsu community. Now, there's a solution. The Japanese have the answer, and the English translation gives us ours. When broadcasters need a neutral term that works for hobbyists and professionals, they use this: senshu, a competitor, an athlete, or a player. Senshu and player aren't just neutral, they're useful. There's no judgment about mastery. There's no pretense about artistry. And they answer the two questions every outsider asks. One, what do you do? I play jujitsu. Two, what are you? I'm a jujitsu player. Go ahead and tell someone you're a jujitsu player. Watch what happens. A colleague at a recent meeting goes, "You say play," and then a boss a couple of years ago asks, "You play jujitsu?" The same question both times. Why play? Curiosity, not confusion, not boredom, not contempt. Curiosity. But the real proof came years earlier, starting with my wife Jessica noticing this sticker that I was working on back in 2017. This was after years of me and our friends talking about jujitsu at brunch, getting punched in the face by spazzy white belts, catching random elbows and knees to the groin, like smashing and crushing and destroying souls. All hyperbolic war language that makes outsiders think we're psychotic. And it killed a lot of the interest. But play kept the door open a little bit, even through years and years of those brunch time war stories. Then 2020 happened. COVID shut down her spin and her dance classes, and she was going stir crazy just like the rest of us. And the gym opened first. We finally got her on the mats. She didn't spaz. She didn't poke me in the eyes, didn't injure herself. She's a retired competitive rhythmic gymnast and a dancer, and she takes instruction really well. Asks questions, sees the connections between positions, techniques, and movement. She glimpsed the intellectual part of the sport immediately, and she experienced what being a jiu-jitsu player means, not the war stories. Now she's a casual player who shows up when she feels like it and has fun on the mats. And she's brought others, a coworker first, then her sister. Play opens doors, and then it opens more doors. So try it. And it sounds weird at first, but then it doesn't. It's like verbal jujitsu, a technique you practice until it becomes automatic. It doesn't need to be drilled 100 times like a butterfly sweep, but you do need to remember to use it the first few times someone asks. Say it aloud. I'm a jujitsu player. I play jujitsu. Watch what happens. Next week, motivation fades, systems don't. If you're in Victoria, British Columbia, Lolakana Martial Arts has more than 20 classes a week for both adults and kids in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, no gi Jiu Jitsu, and kickboxing. We have free parking. We're Indigenous owned. Come check us out.